Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi, and in just a few moments' time, we're going to go on to a press conference from the Colorado Springs Police Department for a bit more detail about the second of two wildfires that are burning in the Colorado Springs area. Now, the one that we're going to learn about here in just a few moments' time is one that involves the Skylark Mobile Home Park located at 3831 North Cascade Avenue. There was a mandatory evacuation that was in place there earlier on. Our understanding is that fire has been mostly, if not entirely, put out at this point. But we are going to learn a bit more about maybe some of the damage done at that mobile home park there, at the Skylark Mobile Home Park at North Cascade Avenue in Colorado Springs, and the fire behind it. We did just have a press conference a few moments ago from the Colorado Springs Police Department about a separate wildfire that's about 25 acres in size on the northeast side of Colorado Springs. That is not contained at this point, but it does appear that the local authorities there do have a perimeter around that particular wildfire. Now, before we get into this press conference here in just a few moments' time, I did want to add a little context. The fact that it is exceptionally dry and that fire danger today is very, very high, even compared to usual. I know we've said this several times here in Denver and along the Front Range, basically all spring, all winter long, going back to the Marshall Fire back on December the 30th, that we've been talking about this relentless, seemingly nonstop fire danger. Well, today's fire danger is exceptionally high, and for this reason, I was just taking a look at weather observations from Colorado Springs with a current dew point. Lower the dew point, the less moisture you've got in the air. Current dew point, Colorado Springs, minus 10 degrees. For context, that is the driest it has been in the month of May in Colorado Springs in the last 73 years. So we're going to go out.
Aware of yet. Right now we are still making an account for, make sure that we have everybody accounted for, just due to, like I said, the size and scope of the fire. We're still making sure that we have everybody evacuated out of all of the structures.
Lieutenant, can you elaborate a little bit more about the propane? Was that used to heat some of these units, or where was that?
Correct. Yeah, most of these homes are supplied by a 500 or 1,000 pound propane cylinder. So that is their natural source of heat that they use on those. So that's what we had that was venting.
And could you, I'm sorry if you already said this, repeat the cause or tell us what that was?
That's still under investigation. We don't have a cause or an origin on the fire right now.
You mentioned the Humane Society. Was there a lot of loose pets that were let out or anything like that? Do you know of any pet injuries at this time? Or
I don't know of any pet injuries, but yeah, there were several pets that were roaming the area that we're assuming were affected. Matter of fact, right before this press release, we just had one of our firefighters go in, and they just found another pet inside one of the homes that was still alive, that's covered in smoke and soaking wet, but they were able to get that dog out from the fire.
if those homeowners are still trying to find those pets, who do they need to talk to try and...
So they can contact the Humane Society for any that have gone there, and then we'd also have a evacuation center that is set up at the Grace Emmanuel Baptist Church on North Nevada. So they are also helping house there as well.
Were those 8 mobile homes all in one pod together and the fire sort of spread from one to another, or were there separate spots in the community where the 8 were destroyed?
So 2 separate streets, but they were all adjoining one another. So 4 on the north side, 4 on the south side.
I'm sorry if you said this already, but did you have like a containment, or do you know like containment or acreage size?
So it's not an acreage because they were all structures. We didn't end up with any grass or wildland fire at all. But right now we do have everything contained to the Skylark Mobile Home Park area. So we've got 100% containment. We're still working on just getting out hotspots. We're going to be out here throughout the rest of the night and probably into the early morning, making sure that we don't have any flare-ups.
Any estimate on when people can go back to their homes?
Not at this time. Yeah, it's going to be quite a while. I would say possibly this evening we may be able to let some in, but right now the area is not safe for anybody to be let back in.
The whole park is evacuated currently?
Correct.
Are there any other evacuations outside of the park that are neighboring that area that are also under evacuation?
You know, that I don't know. I know when they set up through our 911 system, they initially did a geo fence around the entire area right there, but I don't know the size of what they end up doing for the evacuation.
How did the evacuation go? Were you able to get people out like you wanted to?
We were. Were you guys able? I mean,
Yeah,
you guys were
yeah.
successful with.
Yeah, I think we got almost everybody out, accounted for right away. So
Yeah, so CSPD's got everybody out that we're aware of.
yeah, we were aware
Like I said, we still have those 8 units that we have not gone in to do secondary searches into, just because of the amount of fire damage that actually happened on those. They did a quick primary search on them, but as far as a secondary search inside of the structures, that has not happened at this point.
Because of the propane situation with mobile homes, are these typically something that you guys try to get to? Every fire you try to get to as fast as you can, but is that a priority because there's so many propane tanks?
Absolutely. So we do have crews that will get in and start controlling utilities immediately, especially for the affected units. They're pretty easy for us to get control and get those shut off. But we've also got CSU that's going out, and they're controlling the rest of the utilities within the area.
And just to confirm, the evacuation site is not Boston Fitness, but Grace Baptist Church?
That is correct.
How was the wind sort of your enemy today? What has that factored into today's situation?
Yeah, all 3 fires that were going on today, the wind has definitely worked against us on these. Definitely sped to rapid growth, easily to get the fire moving from one structure to the other, or just fanning the flames of the isolated structures that we had for some of the other fires. Yeah, the wind is definitely a big challenge for us.
With the mobile homes being so close together, how does that pose a challenge as well to get between the mobile homes and stop it from continuing to get to others?
Yeah, so that is definitely one of the things that we always try to do is, depending on the amount of fire with one of the homes or any structure in general, wind driven or not, we always try to focus on the priority of protecting exposures. But due to the proximity of these, that does create a lot of challenges for us. So while we have some crews making a direct attack on the fire itself, other crews are protecting the exposures wherever those may be. And whether they're structures or it's vegetation, trees, propane tanks, anything that's combustible, we're always concerned and trying to make sure that we're mitigating those as quickly as we can.
With multiple fires burning today, was there ever a worry that you wouldn't have enough firefighters or staff to control the situation?
Absolutely. So we actually called in from all of our surrounding county partners. So as of right now, we've had Cimarron Hills Fire Department, Black Forest, Fountain, Cheyenne Mountain, Manitou, and Fort Carson. So all of them have come into the city, and then they staff our fire stations because all the regular emergencies are still happening throughout the city. That way CSFD was able to focus on those emergencies. At one point we only had 6 available units for the entire city, which created a lot of challenges. So that's why we have mutual aid agreements with all of our surrounding partners, and they come in at a moment's notice for us and backfill our stations for us. So there was never a point that the public or the community wasn't covered with police, fire, or any type of EMS services. We've also done emergency callbacks as the incident started happening. So we've got additional firefighters that have been called back in. Same thing with the AMR has also done emergency callback for their personnel, and I don't know if PD's done any callbacks for anybody.
We've pulled all of our detectives to be out here helping the local
Yeah.
fires.
So just cooperation amongst all of our emergency services in the county, it's really good. We've set up our emergency services, our FDOC, so we're able to communicate and collaborate with everybody that's involved to protect the city.
Clearly, the area has had a lot of issues with fire danger lately. It's been a very big concern, and we've had fires sparking up over the past couple months that have been really concerning. But do you remember when the last time? Eight structures lost is rather significant. You know, we hear about a house fire here, a house fire there, but how common or rare is it that we have 8 structures lost in a fire in the city?
Absolutely. It is rare for us to lose that many structures on one incident. Again, being challenged by not only the wind, being resource challenged with multiple fires going on throughout the city at the exact same time. The fire happening on the east side of town, that one just in itself had 26 units and 70 firefighters on scene of that one. And matter of fact, that's where this crew was initially headed to. They were headed to that fire there, made a decision on their own to deviate, come to this one because they knew time was going to be on the essence of this fire here.
How many firefighters responded to this fire?
50.
Why is it going to take until this evening to let folks get back into their homes who were evacuated? Why so long?
Well, just with the number of units, we need to make sure that everything's going to be safe with all the utilities being controlled, trying to get into everybody's house and make sure that we're managing everybody's hot spots that are in there. We get a lot of hidden fires at, inside of the walls and the ceilings. Make sure there's nothing with any vegetation. And when the wind flares up, it only takes one spark to get everything going all over again.
With those 8 units lost, the residents, the families that live there, what happens for them? Have you got them connected with resources? Do you know who they are?
So right now, with us having them at an evacuation shelter right now, we will end up going over to the evacuation center and walking through what the next steps are for them, whether people are going to need long-term housing, if they have other places that they can possibly go, for temporary housing, and we'll work with them to provide anything that they may need, food. We'll have the Red Cross that's going to be involved with this. So we do have resources available for everybody.
Do you know, are there other units that suffered maybe from water or smoke damage being close to the 8 that were on fire?
There are units that have some exterior damage. I don't know the extent of any type of interior damage or any water damage.
And you mentioned that there were no reported injuries, but you were doing secondary searches in the units. Is there anyone reported missing?
Not that I'm aware of at this time. But I can't tell you if we've made contact with every resident either.
What's your message to the public as we will continue to be in high fire danger for a while?
Yeah, absolutely. We want people to be extremely diligent with any outdoor cooking, outdoor, whether they're smoking, how they discard any of their cigarettes, welding, anything that can cause any type of spark or flare up. We're asking the public be extremely diligent. Currently we're under burn restrictions. I believe the fire marshal is considering burn bans, which is the highest level of, restrictions that we can possibly have that gets imposed upon the public. But it's a huge concern right now being under drought conditions. We've had low humidity. The winds have been high for, well up to a month right now that we've had nothing but heavy winds, and it's been causing a lot of problems for us for sure. So we're asking that the public be aware, call 911 very early on. If you have any concerns or anything that's in question, we ask that you call 911 immediately.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry my phone keeps going off. I apologize.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yep, you're very welcome.
Can I just get you to say and spell your first